I came in because of the rain. That's the part people always ask about, as though there should have been a calling, a vision, a pull across the void. There wasn't. The grain was in, the baler had thrown a chain, and the storm front over the Perrick lowlands turned the sky the color of wet slate an hour before it was supposed to. I had nothing to do until it passed. The museum was the nearest building with a door that wasn't locked. I use the word museum loosely. It was 3 rooms in the old Settlement Authority building, on the north end of Narrated Colony's only real town. Stone floors, low ceilings. A counter, where a woman named Doss sold admission cards and kept a thermos of something too bitter to be called coffee. The collection was what you'd expect from a 70-year-old farming colony that happened to sit on someone else's ruins. Fragments of wall carvings, a cracked basin that might have been ceremonial, a corroded tool no one could identify, and one sealed climate case with a palm-sized figurine inside it. The figurine was basalt. That's what the catalog card said. Basalt. Origin undetermined. Cultural significance undetermined. Recovered from a foundation dig during the colony's second expansion. Cataloged and placed under glass in the year I was born. 23 years without a footnote. Every xenoarchaeologist who passed through Narrated had examined it, scanned it, photographed it, and moved on. Inert. That was the word they all used. A piece of shaped stone with no detectable energy signature, no readable inscription, no response to any known activation protocol. I remember the way the rain hit the long window behind the case. Diagonal, hard, streaking the glass in silver lines. The light it let through was gray and restless, and in that gray the figurine looked like nothing at all. A woman's shape, maybe, or a column with a suggestion of arms. The carving was so eroded that the form kept shifting depending on where I stood. I leaned closer. I don't know how to describe what happened next without making it sound like I imagined it. The air near the case changed, not temperature, pressure. A low, flat resistance, the kind you feel in your chest before you feel it anywhere else. A push, not violent, not sudden, but deliberate, the way a hand held against a door is deliberate. It was telling me to step back. I didn't. Not because I was brave, or stubborn, or drawn by some buried destiny. I didn't step back because I didn't understand what was happening. And when I don't understand something, I go still. A farmhand's reflex. When the baler jams, you don't run. You stop, you look, you figure out what's caught. I stood there, and I watched the figurine, and I waited. The pressure thickened. My ears rang with it, a low tone, not quite sound, lodged behind my jaw. My vision swam at the edges. I put one hand on the case to steady myself, and the glass was cold, and the figurine behind it was colder. I could feel it through the barrier, a chill that didn't belong to the stone, didn't belong to the room, a refusal. Doss noticed. She looked up from the counter and asked if I was all right. I nodded without turning. I couldn't look away from it, not because it was beautiful, because it was angry, angry the way old things are angry, not with heat, but with weight, with the accumulated insult of every hand that had reached for it and been wrong. I should have left, any sensible person would have, but my hand was still on the glass, and the chill was moving, not out from the figurine but in, toward it, pulling warmth from my palm through the case wall in a slow, deliberate draw. Testing. That was the word that surfaced in my mind, though I couldn't tell you where it came from. It was testing me. I stood there for what felt like a long time. The rain shifted from hard to soft. The gray light steadied. Doss had come around the counter and was standing 6 paces behind me, not speaking, not touching me. She told me later she'd been afraid to. She said the veins in the back of my hand had gone dark, visible, bruised-looking, and the glass under my palm had fogged in a perfect circle the size of a saucer. The cold broke. It broke the way a held breath breaks, all at once, without warning. The chill vanished, and in its place came warmth, rising through the glass, through my skin. settling into the bones of my hand, like a coal remembering its fire. And the figurine changed. Not its shape, its surface. The erosion I'd been staring at, the worn, formless gray, began to separate. Thin lines appeared along the body of the carving, hairline channels I would have sworn were not there a moment before. They filled slowly, from the base upward, with a color I still can't name precisely. Violet first, deep, nearly black, the color of a bruise beneath the skin. Then warming, degree by degree, the way iron changes color in a forge. The violet bled toward gold, not bright, not blinding. A quiet, deep gold, the color of old honey held to morning light. And it came from inside the stone, from the core of the figure outward, as though something behind the basalt had been waiting for permission to surface. The case glass cracked, a single clean line from where my hand rested to the upper corner. Doss made a sound behind me, a sharp breath, nothing more. The low tone behind my jaw shifted, climbed, and became something other than sound, a resonance in the bone, a frequency that my body recognized before my mind could name it. 5 words. They arrived the way dreams arrive, already in progress, fully formed, placed into my awareness without the courtesy of origin. Not spoken aloud, not projected. Transmitted through whatever bridge had opened between the figurine's core and the thing coded in my blood that I had never known was there. Daughter of the absent crown. I didn't know what it meant. Not then. Not the way you know a fact or a name. I knew it the way you know your own pulse, as a thing that has always been running, beneath notice, beneath thought, beneath the years of grain and soil and baler chains and rain, on a colony that sat on ruins I was never taught to care about. Doss called the settlement authority, then the Xenoarchaeology Board. Within a day there were people in that room I had never seen, people who had spent careers on artifacts like this one, who had published papers on the civilization that built these ruins, who had examined this exact figurine and written Inert and moved on. They stood in a half circle and watched the gold light pulse in the carved channels, steady as a heartbeat, and they asked me to place my hand on the glass again. When I did, the light flared. When I pulled away, it dimmed. For no one else did it respond. Not a flicker, not a whisper of warmth. One of them, a woman with gray at her temples, and the careful hands of someone who had held 100 dead relics, sat with me in the authority office and told me what the channels in the figurine matched. They were a dynastic seal, a key, calibrated not to a password or a code or a signature anyone could forge, but to a specific genetic resonance, a pattern woven into a bloodline so deep that the civilization which wrote it no longer existed in any archive, on any world, in any memory but the figurine's own. She said they had called it the absent crown, not because the crown was lost, because the crown was never a crown. It was a lineage, a living thing, carried in the blood, scattered when the homeworld fell, dispersed through colony ships and seed populations across a diaspora so old that no descendant could possibly know they carried it. The idol was not inert. It had been waiting, and it had refused every hand, because none of them held what mine held without my knowing. Until a farmhand walked into a 3-room museum on a backwater colony during a rainstorm because a baler had thrown a chain and she had nothing better to do. I went back to the fields the next morning. The grain doesn't care what an ancient figurine thinks of my bloodline. The baler still needed its chain, but in the evenings, when the work was done and the light went long across the furrows, I would sit on the step and hold my hand open and feel it. The warmth, the low hum, the thing in my cells that had been running since before this colony had a name. The catalog still calls the figurine basalt, origin undetermined. But the gold channels haven't dimmed since the day I touched the glass. And the crack my palm left runs clean across the case, and no one has repaired it. I think they understand that the figurine is no longer theirs to seal.